welcome to the family here on Purple Mafia. I am your host, Paladino Joey, or Joey Owygen. Purple Mafia is available on all of your favorite podcasting apps. I thank each and every one of you once and always for downloading and listening to the show. It is a great pleasure to be back on board with you once again today, as here we are, the the annual draft preview for 2026, the Minnesota Vikings draft preview for 2026. Yes, sir, it's time to talk NFL draft, finally. Sorry about the maybe you could call it semi-late release of the show, though I suppose I tend to get it done the weekend before the actual draft as we head into things. Try not to go too early, and yeah, who knows, things can change in between, but this isn't really quite like the NBA draft where there might be a trade. NFL trades happen once in a while. In fact, they happen usually on the night of the draft. They're more sudden, unexpected type of things, where NBA, it's like, oh, they made this trade, and like a week before the draft. That can definitely happen a lot. But we're not talking about the NBA. We're talking about the National Football League, even though the NBA is flashing in the background. NBA postseason, Timberwolves and Nuggets. Here on this gorgeous Saturday afternoon that I'm recording this part of the show. Gorgeous, but kind of chilly out in these neck of the woods. The sun is shining with little cute, flattish, puffy cumulus clouds. Cumulus, I guess they're called in the scientific world. But kind of chilly. So it's not the greatest weather to be outside necessarily because of the chilliness, but I'll be going back outside very shortly. Upon the completion of this segment anyway. But it's time to start looking at the upcoming prospects and such, and delving into the mock drafts, looking what a lot of the so-called experts are looking at for the Minnesota Vikings up and coming. Seems to be the consensus continues to be a guy by the name of, right now you're seeing Jermod McCoy. We'll be hearing about him, but you're also hearing about the young man out of Oregon, which you've been hearing about quite a bit. You've been hearing about him so much, you're like, who is it? No, it's Dylan Thieneman, who a lot of people see as a capable replacement for Harrison Smith. The first guy that I looked at anyway was Caleb Downs. We're going to kind of open up with him, safety, 6'0", 205 out of Ohio State. Definitely has a future in this league. There's no doubt about that. And remember, this is the day and age of the transfer portal, so you're seeing guys moving around. He was at Alabama in the SEC, and then ultimately Ohio State to win the national championship in 2024. Not a huge college football guy, but of course you watch those playoffs and such. He was at the top of the league, basically, top of the league in the SEC there, with 70 solo tackles in his freshman year with Alabama. Of course, so Alabama and Ohio State, I mean, that's interesting. Those are pretty prominent places, of course. Nick Saban leaving Alabama, eventually moving on and such, and then Mr. Caleb Downs winning the national championship with Ohio State as a sophomore. Heck of a player at times. Did not have any pick sixes, but basically had two interceptions every season. Pass deflections 4 as a freshman, 6 as a junior with Ohio State, and 2 last year with sophomore with Ohio State, and then 2 as a junior last year. But liked what I saw when you look at the research and such, the videos. He's a really good open field tackler, really good. Able to snuff out the run. He gets into the passing lane to deflect passes. He's a capable ball hawk. He'll get interceptions, but not that many. He'll get some, though. It's not like he goes through whole seasons without anything. So there's that. But tough and physical for his size. Again, 6', 205. Kind of reminds me of Robert Griffith back in the day. A really good tackler. Not dazzling, but gets the job done. He gets the guy down, and he's been projected as high as either 10 or even 8, as high as the New Orleans Saints, 8th. So possibility of him sliding down to 18th, kind of slim, but he was in some mock drafts picked up by the Minnesota Vikings. So let's get to Dylan Thieneman, 6', 201 out of Oregon. He is, again, the consensus. And, he should be a good pro in this league, and we're going to talk about him now. And we're going to keep hearing, he was a free agent, right? The whole the whole portal thing in the college game. 2 years with Purdue, and last year with Oregon. Not Oregon. He's definitely a hell of a tackler. 106 combined tackles in 23 with Purdue, 104 in 24, and then 96 last year with Oregon, which would be his junior year. 6 interceptions. That's a lot as a freshman. 0 as a sophomore, and 2 last year with Oregon. He only played 12 games in those first 2 seasons, but 15 last year. 5 pass deflections last year, 7 the year before, and only 2 as a freshman. But again, he had those 6 interceptions as a freshman, a couple of forced fumbles as well. So definitely doing a good job getting the turnovers. Only a sack last year, 1 sack last year, and one sack the year before with Purdue. So a bit of back and forth and such there. Hell of a couple of years with Purdue, but definitely a strong year last year with Oregon. And a lot of people see him as a starter for many years in this league. The overall conversation with him, he's got great range. He's got great range and speed, capable of the safety blitz. Yep, they can definitely use him there, and I'm sure Flores would love to do that. He can cover ground quickly to make a pay, kind of like a center fielder. That's kind of, again, and that's what safeties are. But again, he can cover the ground very quickly to make a play. Very capable tackler. Gets his hands in to disrupt plays and deflects passes. Reminds me of a young, fast Harrison Smith type. Yep, he does remind you of Harrison Smith, kind of like a little, but maybe a little faster. I see him as kind of a boom-bust type than Caleb Downs, who seems to be a safer pick. I think Caleb Downs will be a safer pick at the end of the day, but he'll probably go higher. That's the one thing. A lot of people have been thinking Dylan Thieneman is the guy. It's like odds are he probably will be. Usually when you see the same player over and over and over and over again for the Minnesota Vikings in the same mock draft and such, heck, even like J.J. McCarthy years ago, it was J.J. McCarthy over and over again, despite all the different possibilities during that 2024 draft. It ended up being J.J. McCarthy. So odds are it's probably going to be Dylan Thieneman, but there's some other guys that I would probably take over him, just the way I'm looking at it. But again, Caleb Downs is probably going to not be there. There's another player, though, that excites the crap out of me. He's also another safety out of Toledo, Ohio. So interesting one. Emmanuel McNeil Warren, 6'2", not 6 foot, but 6'2" and 202. Really like what I see out of this kid. And this one did play up to his senior year, and he stayed with Toledo in the MAC, as they like to call it, freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior seasons. Definitely a limited role as a freshman, so that's okay. He had a limited role. He did play in 13 games, but wasn't out there a whole heck of a lot. As a sophomore, though, 4 forced fumbles. That's beautiful. A couple of interceptions as well. Definitely some solid numbers. Not the spectacular tackling necessarily, but then again, the numbers are there. 69 as a sophomore, 61 as a junior, and 77 last year as a senior. Just a half of a sack each of the last 2 years, unfortunately, but 5.5 tackles for loss last year, which is a career high. He also had a pick 6 along the way, 2 total interceptions, 5 pass deflections last season, 5 pass deflections the year before, 3 the year before, and then as a freshman, not a whole lot, but he did have a forced fumble that year. 3 forced fumbles last year, though, and an overall strong season as a senior in the MAC with Toledo. The numbers don't really jump out at you like, holy crap, this guy's a stud. But when you watch him play, I see something there. I definitely see a guy that could become a really nice player in this league. I was saying he's strong against the run, more than capable at forcing turnovers via fumble or interception, which can make him a game changer. He's got great range and speed, size and strength, makes a difference along with the long arms. So yes, he's more lanky. He's more of a lanky guy than either Dylan Thieneman or Caleb Downs. A great athlete in hands, can catch with the best of them. Really can catch. I think he has star potential in this league. And at the time I had been watching him, I'm like, that's my favorite pick right there, potentially. He would be an interesting, they took him instead of Thieneman. Wonder what's going to happen there. And then it's like, holy crap, he ended up being the much better player. So obviously getting cute with this franchise at times can be scary and frustrating. But there was a number of us that saw Kevin Williams years ago, like, is he that great? And then you watch him play and it's like, oh yeah, he's spectacular. He's absolutely wonderful. And he ended up being the right pick at the end of the day. A lot of us wanted other players. I'm forgetting what their names was. Was it Sims, I believe? A lot of people saw him as becoming something in the league, but Kevin Williams is a lot closer to being a Hall of Fame player than Sims at the end of the day. So that's 3 safeties that we've looked at so far. And this one though, it's like after watching all three of them, I'm intrigued enough that I would be willing to pull the trigger on Emmanuel McNeil Warren, EMW. EMW, that's an interesting name. EMW instead of BMW. It might be an interesting one. Could be a game changer, could be something, but again, it's that whole boom bust type of thing. Where Thieneman, I think again, Caleb Downs is the safest. Thieneman's probably a little safer than EMW, but Emmanuel McNeil Warren. But I liked what I saw. I really did. And there's a couple of drafts that had him coming here. Not too many, though. It's mostly Thieneman. Another guy that's been brought up like crazy, definitely has Minnesota ties, so he's exciting. Smaller in stature, a little bit. Not too tall, but still large enough, like physically strong. Emmett Johnson, running back, 5'10", 202 out of Nebraska. Emmett Johnson. This one's interesting. It's not Emmett, like Emmett Smith, or even Emmett Brown, I believe, in Back to the Future. Emmett, so it's an E instead of an I, which could drive you crazy. 4 years with Nebraska. It looks like he had a redshirt freshman year. Played 4 games but did nothing, basically. So it's like basically a redshirt freshman, redshirted in 2022. And then stayed in Nebraska, though, freshman, sophomore, and junior in 23, 24, 25. Kind of a role player his first couple of years, or, like a number 2 backup, or number 2 running back is what I'm trying to say. It's just coming out backwards and annoying people, I'm sure. But then last year became the big-time starter and looked pretty damn good for Nebraska. Obviously, strong season for them. In 12 games, he had 251 attempts, 1,451 yards. This is just the rushing side of things. 12 touchdowns there, averaged almost 6 yards a carry. Same thing the previous year, with a heck of a lot less carries, about a third of the amount of carries, for about 600 yards, averaging about 5 yards a carry. Last year, 121 yards a game, where the year before was 46. Again, like I said, 12 rushing touchdowns, 3 receiving touchdowns to go with 370 yards. But even the year before, kind of that third down running back, almost 300 yards receiving, 2 touchdowns overall, 15 touchdowns from scrimmage, over 1,800 yards. Looks like he led the conference in plays as well. Great run last year for Emmett Johnson, coming from Minnesota, but the school was Nebraska. I like this kid. Definitely has a future in the league. They're seeing him as kind of a day two pick. Might even slide into 3 with the 4th round. I think it'd be a hell of a pick if you get him in the 4th round. I think he'd be dancing on the moon there. Great balance in traffic, able to keep in bounds. And again, see, that's that slightly smaller stature, like not as tall is what I'm trying to say, 5'10" instead of like a 6'2" or something, where you think like the bigger, taller guy, they're usually easier to tackle, even though they're stronger. Sometimes these shorter guys can be a pain in the ass to tackle, and that's kind of what you're going for. Kind of like the other guy named Emmett years ago that played for the Cowboys. Again, like I said, the great balance of traffic, keeping in bounds. Times his lateral movement, he times it. Like he waits for the holes to get around defenders. Really like what I see there. Overall, very quick movement and patience. Again, like I said, waiting for holes to open. Reminds me of way back, kind of like a Terry Allen. He kind of reminds me of Terry Allen a little bit. Might not be exactly the same, but again, wearing that 21, that kind of brought back those wonderful memories. But in my eyes, from what I remember of Terry Allen, I'm seeing kind of a similar guy out there. And that might be who he's shooting for. Like a lot of players, even though the guy might have been, like his career, the guy's career might have taken place before the kid was even born, that type of thing. But there's enough video and information out there where sometimes young players like to study players of the past, guys of the past. And again, Emmett Johnson's from Minnesota, and maybe he looked at Terry Allen as a special guy. That's what I'm looking at. Sometimes, I was thinking, was it a coincidence? Hard to say, but you never know. Terry Allen might be the guy that Emmitt Smith is kind of modeling his game after, and I am seeing some Terry Allen, along with, again, he's wearing the same number. I think he's a starting running back in the NFL, most likely. He'll still be a day 2 pick, and again, could even slide into possibly like 4th round, like early day 3 type of thing. But I think he'd be a hell of a pickup. If you got him in the 4th round, it'd be huge. 3rd, I wouldn't be disappointed. Even, I would not be disappointed if you were able to pick up Emmett Johnson in the 3rd round. He could even be somebody you look at as a returner early in his career. Maybe early on in his career, like say he's not like the feature back yet, because you have, Jordan Mason. You still have Aaron Jones. You actually brought back Aaron Jones. So Emmett Johnson in his rookie year is probably going to be similar to his, first year or two with Nebraska, like active year, like his first active freshman year, not the red shirt thing. And yeah, that could be what we're looking at as a special teams like returner, possibly early on in his career to add a little bit of that. He definitely has some speed, and his capability of getting around people. That's what you look for, especially in a potential punt returner, but even just a regular kickoff returner. I think Emmett Johnson could be pretty good at it. I actually like him quite a bit. He's got a future in this league for sure. I definitely don't see him as anyone as you just kind of like, eh. And he was on KFAN recently with Paul Allen as well. Has the right attitude coming into all of this. Like, yeah, I'm gonna be a player in this league. Not overconfident, but confident. Confident that he's going to be a starter in this league, that he's going to be a legitimate running back for many years in the NFL. And it's not just talk. You can kind of see it, that there's definitely potential there. He's probably not going to be, again, like a starter at day one in the league, but he's somebody that would develop in like a year or two. And, you can preserve some of the tread on the tire, too, with a player like that, because running backs, there, it's not for long. That's where the whole not for long comes from, is especially the running back position, the NFL, the words NFL, the letters NFL and not for long coming together in that conversation. But definitely a fan of Emmett Johnson. Sorry, as I have a sip of coffee here to keep me rocking and rolling. Yeah, definitely like this one. Caleb Banks, defensive tackle. So we're going back defensively here. We're going to have a couple of defensive linemen that I was kind of eyeballing here around the pick. And these are guys that have been popping up either at or close to the Minnesota Vikings pick. And they could be potential need fillers. 6'6", 327 out of Florida. A beast. Another Caleb. This one's Caleb Banks. Coming in from Louisville, Florida. Interesting. Well, he played for Louisville in Florida because guess what? Again, the transfer portal. Yes, it's called the transfer portal. Ever heard of it? This thing even has him even larger, 6'7". A little bit lighter though, 265. So some interesting, maybe kind of starting out his career there with Louisville. He was a little smaller, I'm guessing. Kind of a three technique type of a guy, who's also a run stuffer. He's not like a sack machine. No, I'd say more of a run stuffer, but more than capable of doing a heck of a lot of things. Obviously, again, more of a pressure guy. Well, yeah, they get to try to snuff up the guy, the running backs and such. 7 tackles for loss with Florida. It's just strange. I guess he stuck around multi-senior years there with Florida. At the end of the day, 7 tackles for loss, 4.5 sacks, and then went back to Florida for some reason. But still, a guy that is looked on very highly touted, despite, again, only 3 games with Florida last year. Strange situations. Bowl statistics were included there because it is Florida, the SEC and such. The numbers don't really jump at you as much as the actual play. 21 total tackles, 7 tackles for loss. I already talked about that in his strongest season there with Florida, as you might call it. So really the eye test with this guy is what kind of intrigued me as well. He does pressure the quarterback into hurries and also screens the quarterback's vision. So he does a bit of things that don't appear necessarily in the stat sheet, possibly more in the pro football talk type of stuff, PFT, that kind of thing. So more analytical things. And you're seeing it kind of with the eye test as you're actually watching the player play. It's a combination. You either watch the guy play or some of those other, analytical things. He's able to get to the quarterback quickly to force mistakes and misses. So that's the thing. It's like he doesn't necessarily sack the quarterback, but he's able to force mistakes, misses, and maybe even gets a hit in just in time before there would be any type of a pass interference. He does play a little bit of a 3 technique style, even though he's more of a run stopper. He's able to get into the backfield and swallow up the run, though, as well, which is a big thing. It's a huge deal to be able to swallow up the run, and Vikings could use that. He's a relentless disruptor in the backfield and to the quarterback, meaning either the running back or the quarterback. Great size and mobility. Would more than fill the gap left by Harrison Phillips. Because remember, the Vikings gave up Harrison Phillips for basically nothing at the beginning of the season last year, and I think that hurt the Vikings a lot. The Vikings' run defense was disappointing last year, at the very least. The Vikings got ran into the ground at times. It was pretty ugly. Remember those games last year? I'm trying to think of, was it, yeah, Atlanta. Holy crap. The running back just smoked us. It was embarrassing. Great running back, but still, it just felt like it kept happening over and over again with some of the guys that you look at. Maybe that's like a number two-ish type of a guy, and he's, like a Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh just had their number two running back, and he gained well. Remember Gainwell? That's who it was. He definitely gained well against the Minnesota Vikings. And I think a Caleb Banks could help kind of shore things up there in a lot of ways. More the run stuffer type of guy who can definitely disrupt the quarterback as well. And I think Harrison Phillips was that type of dude as well. That was a huge, huge loss for the Minnesota Vikings to open up the year. Like you thought, oh, we'll be fine. It's just Harrison Phillips. He kind of stunk late in the year. Yeah, well, even if he did, we still were missing him quite a bit. And that's the whole point. So, I don't know. Apparently he had a halfway decent year last year, to say the least. Lee Hunter, another defensive tackle. He's a relentless run stuffer. 6'3", 330. So you're getting more of that general size versus like overall hugeness, like height combined with size. This one's a little bit shorter, 6'3". He's not short to me because I'm 6 foot, but and 330. Texas Tech, Lee Hunter. And did he play for 2 colleges? You bet he did. UCF, that'd be Central Florida, and Texas Tech. So definitely a southern type of a, definitely stuck around in the South. Went all the way to senior year, pardon me. Played his whole time with, his first 3 years with UCF, University of Central Florida, and then eventually Texas Tech as a senior. Again, more of the run stuffer type of guy. 2.5 sacks last year. 3 sacks was a career high with UCF in 2023 as a sophomore. A lot more tackles, though. I think you're going to get a lot more general tackles with this one. 69 with UCF in 23. What am I looking at? 45 in 24 and 41 last year. Only 1 forced fumble, so he had 1 pass deflection as a sophomore. 1 forced fumble last year. So he doesn't get like spectacular, he doesn't like force turnovers and such. But again, another guy that can kind of help plug the middle and such, which was a huge gap left with the departure of Harrison Phillips. Lee Hunter, definitely a relentless run stuffer, quick enough to get to the quarterback, forces the quarterback into hurries with his constant motor. There's that infamous word. We used to hear that about mediocre players, but oh, he's got that motor. Well, this guy does, in a good way, in a good way. It's not just motor. His strength and size are very hard to move. Like, that's the thing. His dynamics, his leverage is outstanding, and that's a big deal to be a defensive lineman in this league. Offensive lineman, too. But yes, he's very hard to move. Another potential Harrison Phillips replacement would make the team better. Yep, I think Lee Hunter would make the Minnesota Vikings better if they wound up with him. Would he be my top choice? Not necessarily, but he'd make the Vikings better. I think he would. And if that's the direction they go, it's not like I'd be like complaining. I mean, I think the organization has a little better crew there to analyze what they need to do, be it just studying the player itself or looking at numbers. I think studying the player is more important than just looking at stats all the time. That does get tiring. The Matthew Cullers of the world, God bless him, not really my style. If that's your style, that's your choice. I'd rather see the player play more than just analyze statistics to a point of like nauseum. Like, I don't know what planet I'm on after listening to Matthew Culler at times, but that's why I don't anymore. So it's stuff like that. It's impossible to keep up with that unless you're an analytics machine, which God bless you if you are. It's your choice. I'm not telling you you're dumb or you're doing anything wrong necessarily. It's just not for me. Just like some people like spaghetti and some people don't. Some people like a spaghetti and some don't. Some people like the spaghetti sauce to be more a tomato, and some like it more of the meat sauce, because you got that the sausage. You know what I'm saying? Italiano. Some people like a dark roast of coffee and others like a light roast. I like the dark roast, And believe it or not, as a kid, I wouldn't even touch meat sauce. Now I take it any time over the other stuff because there's just more flavor. Back in the day when I was a kid, too, I used to think meat sauce was hamburger. I don't like hamburger. I don't. But it's sausage. Sausage tastes much better than hamburger. Okay, back to the sausage and hamburger and T-bone steaks and ribeyes. Yummy, yummy. Ribeyes would be great about now, or prime rib would be the best there is. Well, but you need to cook it. No, prime rib is cooked. Even though it looks pink, it's been roasted and cut. That's why it's pink. You don't put it on the grill. You don't put prime rib on the grill. Yeah. Yeah. I can't believe people are that, I don't know, inexperienced. I don't want to say stupid, but inexperienced. Anyhow, not Gerard, but Jermod McCoy. Could the Vikings look at the cornerback position? Well, this one's been floating out there as well. 6', 190, Tennessee. Yo, what up, Tennessee? Yes, the Vols. Not the Lady Vols, but the Vols. Jermod McCoy. Did he hit the transfer portal? Yeah, he did. They all do. Ugh, it's unbelievable. Just 2 years, too. Oregon State. Not Oregon, but Oregon. Doggone it. Pac-10. But it's like, it seems like everything's just going to be the Big Ten by the time we're done. Like, what happened to the... why are you taking all these good teams out of the Pac-10 and moving them to the Big Ten? It's pretty annoying. With Oregon State, he had 2 interceptions. This is Jermod McCoy again. 2 interceptions. 7 pass deflections. Love it. Love that. Half a tackle for loss last year as well. 31 combined tackles in 12 games. With Tennessee, though, he went from 16 solo tackles to 26. That'd be solo. And then 44 combined, again, the half sack, and 4 interceptions for Mr. Jermod McCoy. No pick sixes or anything, but hey, nice. No forced fumbles, unfortunately, for Jermod, but only 2 years in the college level. Coming to the National Football League. We'll see what happens with young man Jermod. Really looking forward to him. He's a shutdown press corner with incredible speed. He might even be a returner later on in his or early in his career. Actually, I could see him being a really nice returner if you really want to go that way. Great hands on the ball with the best of them. Great hands on the ball with 13 pass deflections and 4 interceptions, some in spectacular fashion. Yes, he had 13 pass deflections. 13, about 4 interceptions. Strong open field tackler as well. Almost too handsy, though. That's the one thing you always have to be careful with some of these guys that are extremely aggressive, and they basically stick to their man like glue. Which is great, but occasionally you might get flagged for something. So that's the one thing you're afraid of coming from college to the pros. Again, like I said, almost too handsy, but his ability to prevent space with the receiver is elite. He's elite at sticking to the receiver. Elite. I would be shocked if he's not at least a starting cornerback for over a decade in the NFL. That's how good I think Jermod McCoy is. That's how impressed I was. I mean, he's just glued to the receiver. It's impressive. You want to get a legitimate shutdown corner, Jermod McCoy's your guy. And whoever gets him, I think they're going to get a really, really nice player. Really good. And if it's the Vikings, well, there you go. And I think this franchise would be very happy to have Jermod McCoy in the fold. Last but not least, at least of the guys I'm kind of looking at right now, Mike Washington Jr., running back, 6'1", a bit taller here, and 233. This guy's big. Arkansas's power running game that can catch and has a burst to his game as well. Kind of like Adrian Peterson with the burst. He's a strong goal line threat, able to get tough yards. Really love what this guy can do at the end of the day. But let's backtrack a bit and look at his actual statistics. He started off with Buffalo, not the Bills or anything, New Mexico State and Arkansas. So this guy's been around the block a little bit. And yeah, definitely got some size though on him. Yep, 3 years with Buffalo. One of them was like I don't know what the heck. That's confusing. So weird. So how they kind of have extra years here. But yeah, he played 5 years in college. The first year was like a freshman, whatever, like red shirt. Hell of a player, though. 7 touchdowns rushing, 625 as it's like a freshman, sophomore, whatever the heck in 2022. 8 touchdowns from scrimmage. The numbers aren't overly dazzling, necessarily, but he didn't have that many carries as well. But he also is a more than capable receiver, particularly his last year there with Arkansas, when he actually was with Arkansas. Definitely something to watch, and a guy who could be like a day 2 pick, maybe even early day 3. In 12 games last year, 1,070 yards, just 12 games, 167 rushes. He averaged 6.5 a carry. 6.5. It's crazy. 28 catches, 226 yards there, and a touchdown. Not a touchdown machine, because he had 8 with New Mexico State and then 8 again with Arkansas the next year. That'd be on the ground. The numbers did not jump out at you spectacularly with New Mexico State, but you watch the player. And yes, you can see a guy who, again, he's probably going to be, he's the kind of guy who I think is very capable of being a feature back in the league, but also including with the fact that he can, not only just run with the ball, but he can be out there on the screen and such as well. Those screens the screen plays. He can make some plays, catch the ball, and take off. He's got a burst to his game, but his power game as well is a huge thing. He could be a great goal line threat in the NFL. More than capable of being a pretty special player, but I think could also be part of a committee type of thing where it's not too much of a committee where he's maybe the main guy. Maybe early on in the career he's like a number 2, but later on he becomes more of a number 1, but also again defers to another running back as well. He'd be kind of like the thunder to someone else's lightning, even though he does have enough speed to be a bit of a lightning as well. Very impressed with what he can do out there, definitely. I liked what I saw at the very least from this guy. Like I was saying, he's a strong goal line threat, able to get the tough yard as well as the home run plays. Can do a bit because, he'd get home run plays that don't necessarily result in touchdowns because you're not necessarily that close. But he can get those 15, 20-yard plays that make a huge difference. Looks like an absolute starter in the league eventually, like long term. But that doesn't mean he is going to be like getting the ball all the time, and you don't have to give them the ball all the time. You keep them around longer this way. They can play into their 30s, and such. A much more complete game than we had with Adrian Peterson. That was the one thing. Looks like a lot younger, healthier version of Aaron Jones. Could be a great day 2 pickup, or even day 3. There's a possibility that he's gonna fall to the 3rd or 4th round. So possibly even day 3, if you get him in the 4th round, it'd be like, oh, okay, here we go. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Vikings took one of these 2 running backs, or at least a running back in the draft. I think they should, to have somebody kind of coming in, especially with Aaron Jones. He's at the end of his career. I got to think this is his last year, certainly with Minnesota, but possibly his last year in the NFL. In Aaron Jones' case, Vikings should definitely look at the running back position. Jermod McCoy would make me very excited. It's hard to pin down a guy that I'm just like my guy for sure. Even though I do like Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, I would be happy to endorse Dylan Thieneman. I like what I saw there. Caleb Downs is probably going to go before us, so it's I have a hell of a time endorsing him. But it's like I have to make an official choice. Who would I endorse at the end of the day for the Minnesota Vikings? I love Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. I mean, I think that's where I'm leaning towards. Somebody might be listening and you're thinking, okay, why? Why don't you just take Dylan Thieneman? I don't know. I think there's more potential in Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. Maybe I'm crazy, but I loved what I saw. I really did. I loved what I saw. I think there's something there that's going to be something special that can make this team great. Thieneman might end up being the most valuable guy there is, and the Vikings may very well take him. See, like I'm endorsing Dylan Thieneman as the guy who they're probably going to take. But just saying, if it's me, the Purple Mafia endorsement is going to go to Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. So I'm going to stick with what I was saying at the time. But yes, see the 2 running backs though that I looked at specifically here, which could be who the Vikings could be targeting on day 2 or super early 3. Yes, I'd be thrilled if the Vikings wound up with either one of those guys. Need some young blood at the running back position, no doubt about it. And you hope that the Vikings do include them in the game as much as possible, rather than just kind of like passing the ball all the time. And, like they did before J.J. McCarthy hurt his ankle, and all that. Or when J.J. McCarthy finally came back later on, the Vikings, or, Mr. Kevin O'Connell finally made adjustments to balance out the offense. And funny, the Vikings were a much better team. The offense looked much better, looked much more balanced. And it just felt the whole mood around the team was better. And, of course, J.J. McCarthy had calmed down a little bit. He wasn't just crazy, like, yeah, like a dog in the street. And number 9 is like this alter ego he has. And I don't know. Okay, Darkwing Duck. It's great. I like Darkwing Duck, too, but we don't need to, it's a cartoon. I mean, I still watch cartoons, yes. I still do, especially from back in the day, not current cartoons. Can't do that. They don't interest me at all. But, I could still put on a Darkwing Duck episode, on Pluto or something. Or no, not Pluto. I guess it's Disney, even though I'm kind of afraid to say I like Disney. I'm afraid to. I don't like Disney, but I like the older stuff they did. Anyhow, not to get too A section or whatever section it is on that one. But yes, I would love to see the Vikings. Obviously, you got to address the safety position. That's more than likely what we're going to go with. Pray to God it's not another Lewis scene. That was a disaster. but I think running back has to be addressed. The chances of the Vikings taking a receiver in the first round, I think, are slim to none. And yes, Judd and all them are talking about, yes, if you're going to take a guy in the third round, he better not be a gunner, like just a special teams guy. He needs to be an actual legitimate receiver who could be your third guy type of guy. Could be a Jarius Wright. Could be a what's his name? The guy I just loved just recently, Osborne, KJ Osborne. I mean, I just love KJ Osborne, and when he left, I was sad. And when there's a chance to bring him back and they didn't, it's just sad again, So I'd love to see KJ Osborne back, but maybe another guy who wears number 17 again, who's a wonderful third receiver for the Minnesota Vikings for many years. Hopefully the Vikings can address that and find a guy. I didn't really look at wide receiver all that much because, you have Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. At the time we already had Justin Jefferson, and I endorsed Jordan Addison as the pick, and I feel very proud about that one, even though Jordan Addison's off-field actions have complicated things a little bit more than what we would like. But at the same time, it's not as bad as it could be, at least at the very end of the day, as horrible as that sounds. But yes, obviously you agree with the Judds and the Chip Scoggins of the world that are talking about, you want to take a receiver in the third round or something, that you hope it's not just another special teams guy, that it's a guy you can use. Ty Felton has not been good. That's basically all he is a gunner so far. But, well, who knows? It was just his rookie year. Who knows? He might develop it. Odds are he probably won't be a whole lot more than what we're already seeing. So we'll see what happens at the wide receiver position. I think running back is more of a need than receiver, believe it or not. And that's kind of where we stand with that. Odds are the Minnesota Vikings will take a defensive player at the end of the day, and that's kind of, again, what we're looking at. But with that, we're going to step away a little bit here and get ready for some fan interaction and maybe look through around some more with the mock drafts and such. And we are back here on Purple Mafia, segment number 2. I was thinking, wait a minute, I'm forgetting something. I'm missing something. It doesn't seem right. Why is last year so bigger? Oh, that's right. I used the draft simulator a little bit and talked more about mock drafts, and I was kind of hinting that at the end of the first segment. So no, this is going to be a 3-segment show now. I think last year I put the simulator and mock, all that stuff, all in one thing, one segment. This year, I guess we'll just throw that in segment number 2. And then segment 3 will be some fan interaction, if there is any, and I do believe there is some. I don't think anybody called in, and if somebody did, I feel like an idiot, but I'm pretty sure I would have seen it. So we're going to do the NFL mockdraftdatabase.com. We're going to go that direction. So Minnesota Vikings, 2026 draft. We're going to go 7 rounds. Expert board or fan board? Ooh, boy. Well, whatever it is. Let's go with the expert board, I guess. I don't know if I'm any type of a genius or anything. I don't think I am. Draft speed will go normal. Hopefully this doesn't take too long. Yep, Fernando Mendoza. These guys are already there. Whoa, where's my pick? Okay, now we're in the draft room. When do you actually get it started? Don't you just push a button or something? Oh no, don't tell me I have to... Yeah, start. There's a button called start. So I do believe we've began, but I'm not seeing anything happen. Oh, okay, there they go. Tyson and da-da-da. McCoy, Tate, Falk, Concepcion, Downs. There, up he went to Cincinnati, I do believe. Who's floating around in my position? Well, there's Dylan Thieneman. Where's my other guy, Emmanuel Warren? I'm going to take Emmanuel Warren over Thieneman. Yeah, everybody's going to kill me for that, but I'm taking him. Might be a terrible pick. Might be a pick of the century. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see how that turns out. When do we pick again and again? That's my question. Eventually, I guess. Should be fun. What are my selections? So I picked 49th coming up here. Well, it's coming right up. And wonder if we got any Up and 49ers are trying to make a trade. I'm going to reject that. I'd trade all the way down to the fourth round. And 2027 draft picks don't really matter to me right now. I'm going to reject. Cincinnati, same thing for round 4. I don't want to go to the fourth round. Why would I do that? Trade down that far? So that's the stuff that just kind of like, it's sort of like waste your time a little bit. Player list, please. Oh boy. Yeah, I wish I could see better. There's like, everything's... Caleb Banks. Caleb Banks is still there? Yeah, we're going that way. Oh yeah, defensive line Florida. Caleb Banks is still sitting there. Pick. So this could work out really good. Our defense might end up getting way the heck better here. This might end up being a really good draft if that took place. Getting Caleb Banks, yeah, because he was floating around 18 in some mock drafts. So the fact I got him at, what, 48th, 49th? That's kind of exciting, actually. So our next pick will be 82, and here it comes. That did not take too long. Chicago, trade down 7 picks to 89. I wish I could see who's available first. Like, who's floating around? Ah, you fudge knuckers. Yeah, I'm hitting the wrong button. Let me see the players. See, that's the thing. Where's the running backs? Running backs? There we go. Coleman, Emmett Johnson's available. And should I trade down and still think he's there? I think that's where I'm going. But I don't see the trade anymore. Because I pushed a button to kind of like look away. What trades are available? Okay, I don't want that one. No, I don't want that one. I just seriously don't. So, where's the offers? Canceled. Okay, let's just take Emmett Johnson then. I'm going to go with Emmett Johnson. Might be a little bit of a reach there. They have him ranked as it might be a reach, but it's a third round pick. So I don't feel too bad. Oh, there's another one. And I don't want to trade down to the 5th round. I'm sorry. God darn it. Yep. Oh, yeah. I don't get to pick until... Did I accidentally accept a trade? Freaking stupid. I think I did. They say Caleb Banks is an A+. But, yeah, I think it is too, where I took him. I mean, that's a pretty good... I think that's a pretty good pick. I feel very happy about that one. It'll eventually be our pick. It's doing its little thing. It's fun to do these simulators to kind of give you an idea, like, what might be a good move for this team going forward. We may never get there. Wide receivers, maybe. Kevin Coleman Jr., Cincinnati. I think I accepted the other trade. How stupid. Like, yeah, I didn't even like it, and I accepted it. That was dumb. So I ended up losing my 4th round pick. I'm not happy about that at all. Not at all. Who do we have here? Austin Barber, offensive tackle, defensive line. I'm going to go with Kevin Coleman, wide receiver. Mizzou. Might be a miserable pick, but what the heck. Let's go for it. What are they ranking that one? No, yeah, I had accepted one of those, didn't I? That's why I traded down and I didn't mean to. Oh, I got another pick here. Okay. Who do we have available? Kendrick Law. I've actually heard some things about him. I kind of like him, but I don't think I want to take a receiver anymore. Cole Payton, quarterback, North Dakota State. Full Heyman. He's the highest ranked guy available. Otherwise, Cage Casey, if you want to get some depth in the offensive line, out of Boise State. Boston College. Offensive tackle, huh? Cage Casey. Should I go for it? What the heck? Let's go with Cage Casey. Let's have some fun. I was thinking of taking that quarterback. He got taken right away after that. It's, you know what I mean? You have J.J. McCarthy. I don't know. I think the quarterback room's kind of busy right now. Like, if you want to pick a quarterback in the draft, I think you were looking at a future starter, not a developmental guy at the moment. I mean, we still might even have what's-his-face from the Gophers, Max Brosmer. So I'm not all super keen about all that. Tim Keenan, defensive line out of Alabama. That's a place that has all kinds of potential. Absolutely. I want to edge with Max Lewin. I did take the defensive tackle fairly early. Otherwise, you got Jimmy Roller out of Michigan, linebacker. Jaden Kennedy out of Oregon, as we like to call it. interesting possibilities here. I took a lineman, Cade Klubnik out of Clemson. No, that's a quarterback. Let's go with the linebacker out of Michigan. Let's give him a shot, huh? So that's where we're going for now. Almost done. Yeah, I know. I hope this isn't too boring or tedious for anybody. That was it. So Cage Casey apparently is an A+ according to this NFL mock draft database. So, and you know, he could be a depth guy, and you know what? What's his name's not going to last forever. So, you know, the current right tackle. So he's not going to last forever. That's just a fact. And of course, that guy's name is Brian O'Neill, not what's his name. That doesn't sound too good. What's his name? We got we got back-to-back 7th-round picks, and then another one in a couple of minutes. 7th-round picks. Yeah, sounds like, what's his name again? Rick Spielman's back in charge. Probably is. Kendrick Law's still there, huh? I'm going to take him. Why not? Let's see what happens. Is that receiver out of Kentucky still there? Surprising. Then a back-to-back pick. Inside, outside linebacker. Kalen Black. Did I take a running back? Yes, I did. I took the Nebraska guy that I like. I did take a safety with the first pick. Jalen Husky, Maryland, cornerback. Let's go with that one. Why not? Why not? So I did eventually take a cornerback. And it's another pick for us coming up here. Bunch of 7th rounders. Bunch of offense and defense here. And you know how the Vikings like to take tight ends late in the draft? Let's go for it. Tanner Kazol out of Houston. There's a lot of receivers and stuff. Yeah, let's take the Houston tight end and see how this all turns out at the end of the day. I do believe my draft is officially done. And those are both A+ picks in the late rounds there. What was my overall ranking? They don't even show it. They don't show any overall ranking, but so Emmanuel McNeil Warren, they rated as a B. It's probably a reach, but what the hell? Caleb Banks getting him in the 2nd round, 49th overall, defensive line A+. I mean, to see him sitting there, I was like, you know, that is a can do. And then to get Emmett Johnson, 82nd overall, it's a B. They don't rank it too high, but we'll see. We'll see how he turns out here. Yes, it's kind of a hometown pick, and let's see what happens. Might end up being a wonderful player, and it's going to be an A+ long term. Kevin Coleman Jr., wide receiver, Missouri, B. What the heck? Then I went with Cage Casey. This is the 5th round offensive tackle. A+ pick out of Boise State. Got a feeling about that one. I think that would be a cool one if the Vikings somehow wound up with that guy. And then Jimmy Rolder, linebacker out of Michigan. They call that an A. Kendrick Law, only a B+, but still B+ is okay. 234th overall. These are 7th round picks here. Kendrick Law, 7th round pick. Jimmy Rolder was a 6th round linebacker, I do believe. Yes, and then Jalen Husky back-to-back from Kendrick Law, cornerback. So a receiver and a cornerback. Jalen Husky at minimum. Maybe these guys could be special teamers, along with the tight end Tanner Kazil. He could be like a out of Houston. He could be the I don't know. He could be the next muse, I guess, for the Minnesota Vikings. Though he had some moments as well. We'll see what happens. Maybe he ends up becoming something. They call that an A+ pick, that tight end draft pick. So why not? What the heck? You know, it seems like a good place to take a tight end. It's like late in the draft, and you never know. They might end up becoming something. Odds are they won't, but who knows? What the heck? 3 7th rounders. I mean, those are flyers right there. And maybe 1 or 2 of them at least becomes a nice special teamser, and or you get a miracle. Cage Casey pick, I think, was a nice steal of the draft here in this one, along with Caleb Banks. Hell yes, 49th overall. I'm very thrilled about that. So, yeah, I mean, I got my guy, Emmanuel McNeil Warren, EMW, coming to Minnesota. I got a great feeling about him. Might end up being the dumbest pick ever, but then again, how could it be? I mean, we saw Lewis Steen. Lewis Steen was never seen in any mock drafts anywhere near the Vikings when he was taken by the Vikings in 2022 by Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah and his scouting group. You can't put it all on him, but of course they always seem to because he's got the big title. That's how it goes. He's the one making the big bucks, man. He's the face of the franchise, damn it, so they got to pick on him. But as far as I'm concerned, I feel kind of confident, at least down to Cage Casey. After that, what the heck? You know, taking some flyers on some guys after that, and you never know. Taking the tight end late, and I think that Jalen Husky out of Maryland, too. He was actually ranked higher than where he's taken, so and that's why they're giving him an A+. So I feel fun about that. Yeah, Casey and Banks, I think, are picks that people would be like, yeah, that was good. And even Emmett Johnson, I'm sure a lot of local people will be excited because kid can play. I think he's better than what they're saying. I did reach a little bit because 82nd pick, I probably could have traded down to 89 and then taken him. I bet they would have ranked him at least a B plus if I did that. But I meant to do that and I clicked on the wrong button. And that trade went away and I made another trade that I didn't want to make. So I didn't have a 4th round pick. So I'm fired. I'm fired just like Kwesi. It's over. I will not do another mock draft to bore you to death with that. But just thought I'd have fun with that and to see how it turns out and how general manager Joey Awajan maybe. You never know. Because I remember looking back at some of the past drafts, like 22. I was looking at, I had it pulled up not too long ago. You look at some of the names that were available, or that at least I was looking at the time. Not that I'm some genius. It's just ironic that there turned out to be hell of a good players that we ended up not taking, the Vikings anyway, and wound up with like Lewis Steen and such. So I had it pulled up, including that Hamilton, who's obviously been extremely successful in the NFL, and the Vikings could have had him, and they took Lewis Steen. There it is, 22 draft preview. I was hoping I'd find it right away. Come on. Yeah, Trent McDuffie, cornerback, Washington, pretty good player. I remember Derek Stingley, cornerback. Ahmad Gardner, Cincinnati, running cornerback. Garrett Wilson, Ohio receiver. Okay. Ohio State anyway. Drake London. There we go. That's a very familiar name with the Falcons there. Jordan Davis, Georgia defensive tackle. Tyler Linderbaum, Iowa center. And then Kyle Hamilton. That's the big one. Out of Notre Dame, 6'4" safety. I was saying the best safety in the draft may not be there at 12. Long, athletic, and can deliver the big hit. Can be used in all different defensive packages. An absolute ball hawk who uses long arms. Had 3 interceptions in a 4-quarter period. Wow. In a 4-quarter like stretch base is what I was trying to say. Explosive speed and blitz packages. Will be a household name wherever he goes. A tall Troy Polamalu, Harrison Smith 2.0. Kyle Hamilton. Kyle Hamilton. That's who they've been talking about all the time. So, and the whole point was, Kyle Hamilton was there at the 12th overall pick, and I was talking about how he's going to be a household name and all that stuff. He ended up going 14th to the Baltimore Ravens. Yep. He was there. The Vikings traded away that 12th pick, traded all the way down to the bottom of the draft. Detroit got Jamison Williams, who's pretty good. But Kyle Hamilton was definitely one of the highlights right there, and the Vikings had him, and they passed on him. Bugger, as they might say in Australia, bugger. That's a big bugger. So that's pretty much the story there. Mr. Kwesi got cute trading down and wound up with Lewis Steen instead of Kyle Hamilton, who he had in the bag. He was waiting for him right there at 12th, and we traded down. With a division rival, no less. Stupid. That division rival ended up winning division championships, and the Vikings, well, we were pretty good too in 22, but that was just kind of lucky. I think it wasn't anything to do with Kwesi and Tova Mensah at the time, necessarily, and a little bit of sugar high as well, getting Zimmer out the door. So we'll see what happens. It's just interesting looking back at the past as well sometimes to see who Purple Mafia might have been looking at the time. Not that I'm some genius. It's just interesting when you read all of that. Like, this guy is a household name wherever he goes. Man, we traded away when we could have had him. Hurts. I don't think I even talked about that on that last show. I was just kind of like, we wound up with Lewis Steen. This is weird, but we'll see what happens. Hopefully, maybe they're right. And whatever. So that's what ended up happening, because you didn't really know just how good Kyle Hamilton would wind up being, and wound up being pretty damn good. With that said, so we'll take a quick break and come back for fan interaction after this. And we are back here on Purple Mafia for fan interaction. I go on Twitter, and I guess there really is none, unfortunately. So that's unfortunate. I don't think there was any call-in. I should have posted something, like what should the Vikings do in the draft, but I guess the draft itself is going to be the main thing. I don't know. That's unfortunate. Whoops, why am I clicking like on my own thing? Yep, so there's like reminders of how, well, I can kind of backtrack to the last one a little bit. I was saying if the Vikings move on from J.J. McCarthy, it will go down as a historic mistake. So we could kind of go into the same thing, because you never know what's going to happen on draft night. As ugly as things were last year, there is something there, and mark my words, McCarthy will be an outstanding quarterback someday. Luckily, I didn't get anybody laughing at me that I know about. Mad Martin responded out of Northern Scotland, saying, "Well said, Joey. The route to the franchise is the route to this franchise is going down is a classic overreaction to a poor season." Yep, meaning like going with Kyler Murray. McCarthy needs time to develop, which is important that the Purple don't look at the last 10 Super Bowl participants only for were not drafted by their team. Those being Darnold, Brady, Stafford, and the anomaly is I think there were some typos accidentally from like the phone. Sometimes that happens. Jimmy G, or maybe voice text. You know how that can mess me up sometimes. Anomaly. The only anomaly is really Jimmy G. I hope it's not a colossal mistake. But why would a team pay a quarterback $35 million plus to let him walk? Don't have a great, that would be Mr. Kyler Murray. $35 million plus to let him walk. Don't have a great deal of confidence in this team anymore. Yeah, because like the other team literally is paying Kyler Murray $35 million just to let him walk. Like, just go away. We'll give you the $35 million. You know, we're gonna pick up the tab. Just go away. Don't go away angry. Just go away. That's pretty much what's happening. So Kyler Murray is making a fortune this year, just not from the Vikings. He's making, like veteran minimum for his amount of time in the league. Was it like 8th-year vet? So it's like $1.3 million. It's pretty wild and pretty crazy. And it's a conversation that, yes, was talked about on the last episode, but it's kind of something we can kind of echo here going into the draft is what the Vikings might possibly do. You never know. They might trade away McCarthy on draft night. And I kind of hope they don't. I hope that this team isn't looking at just signing free agents all the time with the quarterback position. It really hasn't helped things a whole lot. Hopefully this train is the Minnesota Vikings draft. Going to come smashing through. There's going to be some wonderful players coming to the Vikings and help turn this franchise in the right direction. That's the hope. And as we kind of jump around back into the potential mock drafts here with Walter Football, they have the Vikings taking defensive tackle Lee Hunter out of Texas Tech. Lee Hunter out of Texas Tech. Wasn't that one of the guys they looked at? Maybe it's not, actually. It's another one. I thought I talked about a Texas Tech guy. Yeah, Lee Hunter. That's the one. Yep, relentless run stuffer, quick enough to get to the quarterback, force his quarterback into hurries, and so on. His strength and size are very hard to move. Another potential Harrison Phillips replacement would make this team better. Yep, that was my notes after watching what I had to see about Lee Hunter. So who knows? Walter Football's been right before, and they have the Vikings taking Lee Hunter instead of that Thieneman. So who knows what's going to happen there? I'm like ever so curious about that. Just go back, go to the rounds. It's like you can't even click on anything on this flipping thing. That's so dumb. Oh, that's enough to drive a person frickin' bananas. Yeah, previous pick was Dylan Thieneman. It even shows it. Yep. Well, who knows where Dylan Thieneman's going to wind up. Just show something. God, they're dumb. Oh, so stupid. Who do they have the Vikings taking in the second round, huh? Boulder Football tends to keep going and going and going. Will Lee, cornerback, Texas A&M. Will Lee the third. Will Lee. Not Willie, but Will Lee. This is what they have to say. The Vikings need more cornerback talent. Here's a potential number one outside corner for Brian Flores. In 2025, Lee had 50 tackles, 1 interception, and 8 passes broken up. Lee, who is 6 foot, 190, has solid size for the NFL, so he's not one of those tiny ones. Some sources say he is tough and good in man coverage. In 2024, Lee totaled 42 tackles with 2 interceptions, 10 passes broken up, and 1 forced fumble. He had 42 tackles with 2 picks and 6 breakups in 2023. So that's his collegiate career. Will Lee. Will like William, not Willie. No, Will Lee the third, cornerback, Texas A&M. Vikings will be taking maybe. What the flip? Why can't this just show the whole thing? And, I just want to see the first round, okay? I just want to see the first 16 picks, see if Tinneman goes higher. Fernando Mendoza, quarterback, Indiana, national champions, of course. Yes, they won. David Bailey. Heck, I know a David Bailey. He's a technician at work. I didn't know he was trying out for the... No, he's just a little bit older than this guy. Defensive end, Dave Bailey out of Texas Tech, going to the Jets. Oh, yeah, they had a mock draft. They had a snake draft on Score North. They do that every Friday afternoon on Score North, the Purple Daily Show. They did a snake draft about the coolest NFL helmets, and nobody took my pick. If they took it, they would instantly get my vote. You know who it is? New York Jets with the metallic green. Oh, yeah, the shiny metallic green New York Jets have the coolest helmet in the NFL. Period. They have the best. One of them took Houston, I believe, the Houston Oilers, not the freaking Texans, the Houston Oilers, because you can do that, of course. I forget. That was Phil Mackey. I believe I wound up with Declan, who took the classic Patriots. Now I'm blanking. I forget. Maybe I can pull that up real quick, since, again, there's no fan interaction, which is depressing, so we could kind of talk for a minute here. I apologize for the delay. I didn't have it up and ready. Oh, yeah, it's right here. Phil Mackey took the Houston Oilers, then the Iowa Barnstormers, and the present-day Bengals, the stripes and everything. That was pretty cool. Declan Goff took the 61-92 Patriots, where it's that Patriot-looking guy with the hat, hiking the ball. That's that classic look. The Atlanta Falcons with the red helmets and the black bird. I like that. Really cool. And then, of course, the classic Miami Dolphins look in the Marino era and such. Judd Zolgad took a couple of awesome ones here. Lots of retro stuff. The Buccaneers, when they were still, like the orange and then the Buccaneer with the knife in the mouth. The Broncos with the big D. The classic look, John Elway before, they changed the logo and won the Super Bowl a couple of times. And then the Kelly Green Eagles, which look really good. They look like the North Star color. Well, the North Star green with silver, basically, is what that is, because the North Stars were a Kelly Green. I probably should have voted for Judd, but I think he won. Well, actually, it doesn't even show. It used to show. They don't do it as a Twitter poll now. It's on Twitter, and you can say it, but the voting is on YouTube for some stupid reason. If I could change my vote, it'd be Judd, though, because of all the cool retros. All right, now I've got past the second pick. Avell Reese, linebacker, going to the Dallas Cowboys. Jeremiah Love, running back. Yep, everybody's in love with Jeremiah Love. That's why I didn't talk about him, because unless the Vikings make a crazy trade up, and I don't think the Vikings really have the resources to do it, we're talking like a top 5 pick here, just like Drake May years ago when the Vikings had, were in love with Drake May, and a lot of us were like, yeah, take him if you can get high enough. But the Patriots didn't budge, and they did the right thing. Tennessee Titans taking Jeremiah Love 4th. Notre Dame, he's a phenom running back right there. Franchise running back. He'd be coming out of Notre Dame, of course. The New York Giants, Spencer Fenno. They also traded away Dexter Lawrence today to the... I can't remember who they traded him to. That actually was brand new news today. Yep, that's what I thought. I was picking it up here really quick. To the Bengals for the 10th pick. So the Giants will now have a extra pick. They traded away Dexter Lawrence, one of the great edge rushers in the NFL. So number 97 there. Good for him. So, sorry, I'm getting distracted here. Continuing. That was a big part of the news that just happened here. Carnell Tate, wide receiver. Yep, going super high to the Cleveland Browns, 6th overall. Commanders getting Sonny Styles, linebacker. 8th pick, Caleb Downs. Wow, look at that. Caleb Downs going 8th. Yep, this is the one to the Saints. Pretty crazy. New Orleans Saints. Caleb Downs, that's one of my guys there. Ruben Bain Jr., defensive end, Miami. Mooson, yeah, that'd be to the Kansas City Chiefs. And now this pick that is the New York Giants, Mansour Delaney, cornerback. We'll see. LSU, who knows. Miami Dolphins, Mekhi Lemon, wide receiver, USC. Arizona Cardinals, 12th pick, Francis Magolo, whatever, offensive tackle. Jordan Tyson, wide receiver, Arizona State, going to the Rams, 13th overall. Baltimore Ravens, 14th pick again. Whew, now I'm having nightmares. Kenyon Sadiq, tight end, Oregon. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 15th, C.J. Allen, linebacker, Georgia. New York Jets, 16th pick, Jermod McCoy, a guy I really like. That is a shutdown corner. Tennessee, according to Walter Football, would go ahead of the Vikings unless we trade up. 16th to the Jets. So interesting. Now, if I could keep clicking here, that'd be great. This actually does work. Instead, it's doing the little back and forth spinning around being stupid. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that. Caden Proctor, offensive tackle, Alabama, going 17th to the Lions. Now it's Peter Woods, defensive tackle, Clemson, coming to the Vikings. So that changed. It just changed, just now. Peter Woods, defensive tackle, Clemson. The Vikings have a big need for a safety with Harrison Smith no longer with the team. However, they also need help with the defensive line. Yeah, because, Harrison Phillips, the other Harrison, which is looking rather depressing to someone who has futures bet on Minnesota. Yep, so they had other draft possibilities. Dylan Thunderman, of course, and then Kendrick Falk, defensive end. Interesting. Could replace Jonathan Kennard. Yep, he's been in trade rumors. Nothing major, though. I haven't really brought it up because I'm not sure. I'm just not. Blake Miller, also from Clemson. There'd be back-to-back Clemson picks, offensive tackle to the Carolina Panthers, 19th overall. Ty Simpson, quarterback, going to the Cardinals. Alabama quarterback going to the Cardinals, 20th overall. Walter Football is basically freezing up my computer right now because there's too much crap on their page. It's so dumb. That is annoying. Just load already. Oh my God. Yeah, it's not working out. Too many ads on Walter Football to drive you absolutely up the wall. So, fuck. Sorry. Bagoa lone guard, Penn State. If I could just keep going, that'd be great. Caden McDonald, defensive tackle, Ohio State, going to 22nd to the Chargers. I think it's just freezing up the computer. It's too much. Okay, it's one thing to have ads. It's another, there's so many they can actually freeze your computer, basically. Yeah, I don't want to hear that. Screw you. I don't want to hear that. I think the whole thing just crashed in it. Yep. Stupid bastards. Well, we're done with that. All right, Walter Football, get your bleep together. That'd be great. It's a miracle the whole thing came back. Oh, it's working now, sort of. Okay, well, let's see if it actually does work. I'm so annoyed. Okay, Caleb Lamu, offensive tackle, Utah, going to the Philadelphia Eagles. Monroe Feeling, offensive tackle, Georgia, 24th to the Browns. Keldrick Falk, defensive end, Auburn, going to the Chicago Bears, 25th overall. Buffalo Bills, Denzel Boston, from Washington. My God, that could throw you off like tomorrow. Going 26th to the Bills. That is crazy. Casey Concepcion, wide receiver. What's up with all the receivers? Dang. Maybe the Vikings will take a receiver in the first round. Texas A&M, 27th to the Niners. Good pick there, I think, actually. Good move there. Max Henniker, offensive tackle, Arizona State, going 28th to the Houston Texans. Kansas City Chiefs, Dylan Thunderman. I would figure. And he ends up being like a superstar. Just watch. 29th to the Chiefs. That would figure, wouldn't it? Avian Terrell. Just that alone right there says you better take Thunderman right now. You better make sure you take him, because if he slips to the Chiefs, I'm going to be screaming. Avian Terrell, cornerback, Clemson, 30th to the Dolphins. Patriots, Emmanuel McNeil Warren. That would figure as well. But that one wouldn't piss me off as much. I remember there was, a cornerback I was in love with years ago. A player I was just in love with, a defensive type of, I think, he was in the secondary. I forget if it was a cornerback or what, but I think so. And he got drafted by the Patriots. I think we just kind of passed on him, and he went to the Patriots and wound up being a wonderful player. This might happen. Emmanuel McNeil Warren. That sounds like a Patriots pick. It makes me want to take him even more. Not because I want to deny him going to the Patriots, because I like the Patriots too, dang it. But it tells you, I think, the Patriots know what they're doing over there. They really do. And it tells you maybe I might have tapped into something. Colton Hood, cornerback, Tennessee, going to the Sea Chickens, the world champions, unfortunately. 32nd overall. So that was a real interesting thing to see. The Patriots. Emmanuel McNeil Warren going to the Patriots. But this isn't necessarily Patriots scouts here running Walter Football, so who knows what'll happen. With that said, thank you so much for listening. Really, I sincerely say that. If you'd like to help the show even a little bit, please share the show, retweet the show, share it around, tweet the show out, share it, whatever. Tell your friends about it, word of mouth, whatever, share it Facebook, whatever interaction you can do. Call into the show if you can, or at gmail.com. You send your soundbite by opening any smart device on the planet. Just open it up, press record, and talk into it. Then save it and share it to paladinolive@gmail.com. Paladinolive@gmail.com. I will then convert it into an MP3 file thanks to cloudconvert.com. I want to thank you so much for listening to this show. It's been a blast. I love talking draft, even though I think people like Score North talk about it too much, because they talk about like every player. It's like, okay, how about players that are most likely coming to Minnesota rather than like just about every player in the whole dang draft? It gets a little bit tiring sometimes, but then again, maybe that's just me being weird and all that. But because it is what it is. But I want to thank you so much for listening. Please put a positive rating, 5-star rating if you could, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any other way. But Apple Podcasts and Spotify are the main places to do that, and maybe even write a review if you can on the Apple Podcast. With that said, thank you so much for listening. Tell your friends, like I said, and we'll talk to you soon for the draft review.